You're listening to Ideal Practice, episode number 102. I had so much fun putting this one together for you guys. Today, you and I get to hang out with Jacquette M. Timmons, a financial behaviorist who helps us all learn how to understand our own internal, often unconscious relationship with money. Isn't that the coolest title, financial behaviorist? Yeah, you're going to love this because we're going to be talking about what wealth even really means and how our historical, cultural, and personal experiences shape our ability to allow that wealth into our lives and into our practice. Yeah, we're talking about that and a whole lot more. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey folks, this is Wendy, your host here at Ideal Practice. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode here on the podcast. How you guys doing? I hope that you are in the mood for a lively, fun, and thought-provoking conversation. Because in today's episode, you get to meet Jacquette Timmons. This is a woman with a delightful laugh and a really refreshing, straightforward approach to finance. And I have to tell you, as a social worker who does not have a money brain, a numbers brain, it is always fun and sort of extra sweet to me to meet women who get this stuff, who can talk about this stuff, and who can do it in a way that is not intimidating at all to those of us who are on the receiving end. You're going to love her. Jacquette is a speaker, an author. She calls herself a financial behaviorist, which I love, and she has been advancing the culture of financial well-being for over 30 years. She tells us that money is a 5-letter word that immediately sparks a kind of response in us. It shapes and it influences practically every decision we make. And it's easy to think that those decisions are always logical, practical, they make perfect sense. But the truth is that how we use our money, and I would add how we earn, attract, create money, is shaped by our relationship with it. And yet, for something that we use every single day, we do not talk about finances in a way that sheds the shame that so many people feel about their financial knowledge, their exposure, their expectations, much less helps us create a stronger financial present and future. So this is the human side of money, and that's the focus of Jacquette's work. I love that. She's the author of Financial Intimacy, How to Create a Healthy Relationship with Your Money and Your Mate. She's a frequent blogger, a creator, a trademark holder of Pricing Made Human, and she's host of her own podcast, More Than Money. This is going to be so much fun. So let's get in to the interview. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ideal Practice. It is my highest honor today to bring to you a new guest, new to me. We have only just met a few weeks ago, and I instantly fell in love with her. Her energy was just so delightful, so over the top, so happy, such a treat to talk to. And the topic that we are diving in today is a near and dear favorite of mine and hers, which will not surprise you. Let me introduce you to Jacquette Timmons. Jacquette, say hello.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited to be here and for us to dive in.
Hello, hello, hello. I love that. Yes, indeed. So tell everybody a little bit about you. Like, who do you help? How do you help them? Introduce us to you.
Oh, with pleasure. So I guess we should start first with my title.
Yeah.
financial behaviorist. And,
Yes.
embedded in that is, really the focus of my work, which is getting people to pay attention to their behavior with money, which really means paying attention to the emotions that you bring to that. And my goal, whether I'm working one-on-one coaching, and that's typically with entrepreneurs or small business owners, or if I am donning my speaker's hat, because I am a for-hire speaker, mostly for law firms, financial services companies, and
Okay.
conferences, regardless of who I am in front of in whatever capacity, the thing that I want for them is to be successful, profitable, and not broke. And what I
Yeah.
mean when I say successful is that they have what they want and they are achieving their goals on their own terms. What I mean by profitable is that they have more than enough, however they define enough, whether
Mm,
that's enough money, enough time, enough space. And
mm.
what I mean by not broke is, of course, not broke financially, but also not broke energetically and creatively.
Oh,
And
love that.
so for me, the journey to help people get all of that and the my role as a financial behaviorist is, yes, to respect the numbers, but to not start with the math or with the
Mm,
tools, but to
yeah.
first start with your feelings and your relationships, because there are a variety of relationships that influence your experience and your success with money. And that's what I want to get people to pay attention to.
Yeah. On your website, you have financial success does not start with your wallet,
Yes.
right? Which
Yes.
I love. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
So a financial behaviorist is a like talk about juicy. Yeah. Yeah. So I am a little curious about that though. Like, how did you come to this work? I can't remember if we talked about this before, but I'm curious about it. Like, why this?
Why this?
Why
Oh my,
this?
it was not intentional. So I can put that out there. It was
Yeah.
definitely accidental, but it was accidental by way of curiosity.
Mm.
So
Oh yeah, I remember this.
I
Yes,
like to say I
tell us
look
this.
younger than I am. Oh my God. But the first seed was actually seeing the crash of 1987 up close and personal. I was just a year out of undergrad, still very, very green behind the ears, as they say.
Hmm.
But working on Wall Street, and there's the crash, and I'm watching two drastically different reactions to
So
that.
you were working on Wall Street when that
I
happened, right?
was.
And
Yep.
this was like a
Mhm.
real estate crash. Am I remembering that right?
No, it was the stock market
Oh,
crash.
oh, that's right.
It
Black
was a
Friday.
yeah, it was Black Friday,
That's
October
right.
17th,
Yeah.
1987.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, it was Black Friday, and I didn't really understand why that was the case. Like, why were there some people that were really calm, and then there were others that were really freaking out because of how much money they lost for their clients and for themselves.
Mm.
And not only was I curious around, well, why, but then also, why were they not talking to each other? Like, why weren't, the people over here calming the folks over here down? And why wasn't it the case that the folks that were anxious, why wasn't that bleeding over into these folks over here?
Mm. Mm.
And so that
And
was
I want to paint a picture on this because a lot of the
yeah,
folks who are listening to this may like this may have been way before their time. Who knows,
okay.
right? And I remember this also because my parents lost a lot of money that day. And I remember that I was in grad school and I remember
Hmm.
them talking about it. And I didn't understand any of it, but it was
Hmm.
a big day. The stock market really fell like the
Yes.
most since the 30s, right? It
Exactly.
scared a lot of people.
Exactly.
People lost their savings overnight. Yeah.
Exactly. It was
Yep.
the largest drop since the Great Depression.
Yeah. Big
So
deal.
it was
Real big
pretty
deal.
significant. Like now you have a 500-day drop and it's like a drop in a bucket.
Right.
But back then it was really, really huge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would say that that was the first seed because, behavioral finance and behavioral economics as disciplines, they've been around for a very, very long time. So
Mm-hmm.
me calling myself a financial behaviorist is not anything new, but that was the first seed. The second seed was spending time in the private bank, managing money for high net worth individuals, which was also the springboard for me starting my own firm initially to do the exact same thing. And just really coming to understand that, oh, yeah, these people have a whole heck of a lot of more zeros and commas between them than my family. However, they have the same questions, the same challenges, the same frustrations. They simply have more resources to tap into to address them. And
Yeah.
so that is what really, I think, sparked me wanting to have a different kind of conversation when it came to money and really getting people to understand, as you know, I say, financial success doesn't start in your wallet, because there are a whole bunch of choices that you need to make before you get there. And there are a lot of nuances that really kind of shape the degree to which someone is able to not only practice, quote unquote, all of the traditional financial rules, right? Like
Right.
pay yourself first, spend less than you earn, have minimal to no debt, invest in the stock market. You can do all those things and still not experience the financial success that you want. You can do none of those things and experience financial success. So how do you
That's
explain?
important. That's
Yeah.
important. It's not always about the strategy. It's not always about the numbers. In fact, most of the time it isn't at all. That is so true. You can do
Yeah.
everything right and still not have any money. You can do a lot of things wrong and still have plenty of money. That is so, I love
Exactly.
this. Yeah. Yeah. So
Exactly.
teach us. Yes. So you got curious about that. You've been like, so how come you see people with money who are, it's not going well, people without money? I mean, it's just like, it's a complicated factor. And what you're noticing is that people are reacting very different to the same situation. And you're curious about that. Okay. Got it.
Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay.
And then I just got tired. By the time I, made the shift in terms of not managing money to focusing on coaching and speaking, I had just gotten tired of having conversations around the performance of your portfolio.
Yeah. Not so juicy. Not so juicy.
Not so juicy.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me. I'm thinking you lead something a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Huh. Okay. So you got really interested in the personality differences, the psychology of success in a way, and how that
Yeah.
impacted finance. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted people to understand that they have a relationship with money.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I say is that it's probably one of the longest relationships that you will have.
Yeah.
And just like any other relationship that is of importance to you, what you do to take care of it determines the kind of relationship that it will end up being.
I think that is huge. I had a book. I've done a whole episode on this where I had a bookkeeper who said to me one time, "You can't treat money like a bad boyfriend that you just stick on the shelf and pull down when you want to play and then put him back up when you're over it. Like you can't do that."
Right.
The whole relation. You are so right. And if you think of the relationship the way we think of any other relationship, you have to treat it different. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Okay.
So if you want more from it, you have to, take a step back and ask yourself, all right, well, what are you giving? Are you giving it attention? Are you giving it direction? Are you providing boundaries? All of the things that are present in any relationship, especially if it's healthy, are the same kinds of things I think that you should think about making sure are present in your relationship with money.
I love attention, direction, and boundaries. Attention, direction, and boundaries, which is like so much a part of what you're right. Any kind of healthy relationship. I love that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's dive into this a little bit. I talk a lot on this program about having a healthy relationship with money. I work with energy healers, therapists, yoga, all the sort of healthcare practitioners of different types, but they tend to be on the solo provider, and they tend to be more on the alternative medicine side of things, more than mainstream medicine. Not always, but they tend to be. And we are used to talking in terms of relationships for sure. But when we say relationship with money, like what does that look like? How do we know? Like, let's get a little bit more real with that. Like, what does that actually mean in real life? How do I know that I have a healthy relationship or I don't have a healthy? And how can I have a relationship with something that's an intangible anyway? Like, what are you talking about there? know? Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't necessarily think of it as intangible. So
Yeah.
yes, right? It is, either in paper form or coin or plastic or digital. But I think what money enables you to do, that's tangible,
Yeah.
right? The
True.
experiences that you were able to have because of money, that's tangible. The things
Yeah.
that you were able to buy because of money, that's tangible. And so I don't think of it as something that is intangible. But in terms of your question of is it a healthy relationship, I
Yeah.
think it would, really boil down to is are you struggling?
Mm.
If you're struggling, maybe it's because it's not as healthy as it could be.
Yeah.
Um, and what does that mean, if you're struggling? What might that look like? It might
Yeah.
look like not being able to save or save as much as you would like. It might look like not being able to invest. And for me, investing is not just about building financial wealth. I mean, obviously that is important, but there are a
Hmm.
couple of things that are going on, in my opinion. Number one, people don't really pay attention to that there are three key ways to build wealth. You either own a business, invest in the stock market, or have income producing real estate. You need to be intentional about, well, what of those three ways, or what of those three ways do you want to use as your pathway to building wealth? Do you want to
I
do all
noticed that you did
three?
not say get a good job.
Mm-mm.
You didn't say get a good job. You didn't even say negotiate for a better salary. You said own a business, invest in the stock market, or in income producing real estate.
Yes.
Boom.
Yep.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay.
And that the question then becomes, are you going to do all three? Are you going to do two? And if it's two, what's the combination? And I would never suggest to do just one because then that makes you really, really vulnerable. But the
Mm.
problem is not only do people not take the time to think about how do they want to build their financial wealth, but they don't know what their number is. How do you
Yeah.
know when you're wealthy? And I think part of it is because people get caught up in certainty. And this is not an exercise in certainty, it's an exercise in
Oh.
clarity.
Oh, wow.
There's a
Okay.
huge difference between the two because if you don't have a number in mind, how do you know then what choices and trade offs you need to make today that will help you get to that number or even within a range of that number? So that's
Yeah.
the first thing. Like we need to make sure that we are expanding what we talk about when we talk about investing and when we talk about wealth. So financial wealth is one, and that's probably the pillar because it allows you to do everything else. But the other dimensions of wealth are social wealth, right? What are you giving away and to whom and why is that important to you? And if you were to make a pledge and say, well, I'm only going to give X amount for the next 5 years because we tend to measure business and market cycles in 5-year increments. It's one of the reasons why
Do we?
we
I don't know that.
well, it's one of the reasons why if you were to look at a performance of either an individual stock or a
Yeah.
mutual fund, one of the things that they tell you to do is to at least look back 5 years
5
at a
years.
minimum,
Got
right?
it.
Because that's
Got
going to
it.
give you a sense of how does it perform when the market goes up and down over a 5-year period. Because in a
Hmm.
5-year period, the market will have had some volatility.
Right.
So what's the amount of money that you want to be in a position to give away and to whom, whether it's an individual or a group of individuals or causes and organizations that are important to you? So that's social. Then there's time wealth. If money were not an issue, what would you do differently with your time? And
Love
then
it.
there's physical wealth, right? What are you doing to take care of yourself right now physically? And then
Yeah.
there's the well-being bucket. What are you doing to take care of your mental wealth and health, your emotional health and wealth? And if it's relevant, your spiritual health and wealth. A lot of people don't think of that as investing, but to me, that is all a part of the investing pool.
I love
So
that. That's beautiful. Yeah.
yeah. So when you talk about, all right, where are you struggling? It's are you saving as much as you need to or want to? Are you investing in all of the different dimensions? And when it comes to spending, are you living the lifestyle that you want to live? And it doesn't have to be extravagant to be, luxurious, but do you
Mm.
find yourself giving yourself permission to have nice things?
Yes.
And so
This
here's the
is,
key though. The question
yeah.
becomes when you sit down to ask yourself, What do you want to save? How do you want to invest? What's the lifestyle that you want to have? It prompts the question, what do you need to earn to make that happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
As
Yeah.
opposed to forcing those decisions based upon what you earn. And that's a significant difference, even though it can be subtle.
So that's starting with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey would say, right? So the first thing you just did that was so worth paying attention to is you just described multiple aspects of what wealth even means, right? Different types of wealth. And when you said social wealth, I thought you were going somewhere else, but you were talking about money you have to give away, like money you have to support, the things that you care about. So financial wealth, social wealth, and then you named us several other things that were basically about a well-balanced, well-rounded, healthy, whole life.
Right.
All of which matters, all of which has sort of a, what's the opposite of wealth? Broke, to use your language. Like you can be wealthy or not in any one of those areas, and you need all of that to be in a good shape. Okay. And then you're like, so you know what you want, you know what you need in each one of those areas, but to get there, here's what's the number. And then you said it's not about certainty, it's about clarity, which is also brilliant. Okay. You've already given us several really good nuggets to kind of like really tune into, y'all. I really want y'all to notice what she's saying here, because these are 3 different ways of making money that you talked about, different what the definitions of wealth. And then, all right, so knowing that this is what you want, what's it going to take to get you that? Okay.
Right.
I'm with you.
And you mentioned, oh, I noticed you didn't say, anything about having a job. And the reason is because most often, if you are working for someone else, your earning potential is capped.
Yes.
And it's capped by whatever they determine is the amount that you should get paid. Versus when you have a business, you get to decide what do you want. What you get to decide 2 things. You get to decide what your business earns. And then of that, what do you pay yourself?
Yep.
And so those are things that you don't have control of when you are exclusively working. Because I know some people may do a hybrid, and that's cool if that's what works for you. But you don't have that kind of flexibility. You don't have that option if you are only working in the capacity as an employee.
I actually believe it's, especially even when the economy is struggling, which it is not right now. We're doing really well right now. But if we are, like, you are safer when you own a business than you are with a job, because you can recreate yourself, you can redesign your work. Like, there's so many different things you can do as an entrepreneur that you can't when you are working for someone. That's true. You said something a minute ago, actually, I forgot to tap into. You said something about allow yourself to have nice things. Can you allow yourself to have nice things? And that reminded me of, there was a time when a friend of mine asked me about my relationship to luxury, which I thought, that's a weird question. And she was like, can you allow luxury? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's talk about what that means. I don't know. This stuff is so loaded. It's so loaded. And in my audience, a lot of my people, when you just said you decide how to pay yourself, half the time they're not paying themselves at all, or it's not very much, or it's very sporadic, or and I've been guilty of that myself. Like, I'm not pointing fingers here. So yeah.
It can be so tough. And I think, so there are 2 things. I want to get back to the luxury piece, but before I get there, let me just write myself a little note to get back, just in case I do forget luxury. One of the things I think is really important is that we be mindful of the fact that so much has changed, even if we think about the 80s to now with regard to how we work. I started at Bankers Trust in 86. 20 years old, right out of undergrad. When I started at Bankers Trust, I had a defined benefit plan.
Okay.
By the time I left, which was 10 years later, it had switched to a defined contribution plan, because that's what a lot of other companies were doing.
You'll have to explain that. Yeah.
So defined benefit plan meant that your employer, which was a lot of, ways that people worked, whether it was for a big institution or the government or a nonprofit organization, they were the ones that were responsible for planning for your retirement.
Yeah.
Right? You got your pension.
Right.
With the defined contribution plan, i.e. your 401k, or if you work for a nonprofit, your 403b, it is your responsibility to set
Yes.
aside the money and to decide how that money was invested. So that's
Yeah.
one change. The other change was I was at Bankers Trust just 2 months shy, say, of 10 years. My mother worked for Social Security for 38 years.
Mm-hmm.
The way people work now, they're lucky if they are at one place for 4.2 years.
Yep.
So your responsibility for taking care of your financial needs in the future has been outsourced to you.
Yeah.
Your financial security is not the same as it once was when you had an environment where you worked somewhere for 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, and you got a wallet. I mean, not a wallet, a clock,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. A
Thank you for
wallet.
staying with us for so long.
Yeah.
Now you get none of that, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the reason I bring that up is because all of that shapes the tension that exists today for a lot of people when it comes to managing their money, because so much of what was once is not, and they're
Such a good
shouldering
point.
so much more of
Such a good
that
point.
responsibility.
Yeah. Bottom line, the cavalry's not coming.
Exactly.
Right? Nobody's
Yeah.
going to do this for you. You have to learn how to handle. You have to learn this. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Which is daunting and overwhelming. And especially if you are wired like I am, and a lot of my people are, we are not, like, our brains don't work this way. My brain turns into mush when I start talking about this kind of stuff. So, and yet this is also, you know what? This is also about being at cause in your business and in your life. When you are at cause, as opposed to being at effect, you are the one who is responsible for what's going on in your business and in your life. You are the one. And you can look at that two ways. You can look at that as like, oh man, it's all on my shoulders. Or you can look at it as like, oh yay, it's all in my hands.
Right. Yeah.
And I can do what I can make this work.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So if you don't like the results in any capacity, you can take a step back and say, well, what do I need to start doing differently so that I can get the, result that I want?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So keep going. So we have to, it's been outsourced back to us to manage our overall financial security for the course of our life. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, going back to the luxury thing, I think this is where the emotions come in. I mean, the emotions are always present. I always say you're a human being, so emotions are always present. The question really becomes, are you in the front leading your emotions, or are you in the front being pushed by your emotions?
Okay.
But luxury is an example of an emotion. And for some people, it's an emotion of, do you deserve it?
Yeah, a lot. Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is real common among social workers, psychotherapists. I'm not supposed to want more, I'm not allowed to want more. Shame on me for ever wanting more. It's really bad in the social work world, which is where I come from. Like, we are, and I talk about this ad nauseum on this show. I feel so strongly about this, that we are guilted for wanting more. Which kills
because
me.
You're a healing profession and you're not supposed to. And you're supposed to be always accessible. And my whole thing around that is, but if you are accessible at your own expense and your own financial future, then who are you doing a good job for?
Yeah.
Not really, not in the long term. It might serve you and whomever you're serving in the short term. But if you're not going to be around,
yeah.
it's not really doing a good thing.
Well, I always say you can't be broke enough to help somebody else be rich.
Right.
And you can't be sick enough to help somebody else be well. So you have to start with yourself.
Yeah.
So where do you see people tripping up? So emotions. How does emotion impact our financial behavior?
Well, I mean, it's going to always at some point stem back to what you were exposed to when you were growing up, whether it is your immediate family or origin, or, another family that you became a part of. It is going to be tied to, what did you see growing up? What were the messages that you got, not only in terms of your family unit, but also your cultural community? I wrote about this, we are having this conversation. I guess at this point, I can't remember the timing because timing is weird, but we're having this conversation on the heels of the Fonnie Willis trial in Georgia.
Yes.
And I watched parts of that and was really kind of pissed off because it was the perfect illustration of the intersection of culture and money coming to play. Because there wasn't that nuanced understanding of why some Black people do what they do or don't do when it comes to money. Like it was absent of any historical and systemic and just the complex interweb of a lot of different things. And I just think that when we talk about where does it all come from, some of it is family, some of it is culture, some of it is just a broader community, some of it is historical, some of it is systemic. And all of that drives and shows up in how you relate to money, the choices you make, the choices that you feel are available to you to make. And in some instances, the choices that are literally available to you to make, So I think I went on a little bit of a rant. Sorry. I don't know if I answered
no,
your
it's perfectly
question.
fine. This is actually an excellent example. I want to explain this a little bit. Because I know what you're talking about. I would not have known it, but I understood that in that trial, when her father, where she was talking about what she learned from her father and the whole thing about keeping cash on hand, which I did not know was specific to Black culture or Black experience. Completely new to me. Had never heard that before. And somebody explained that to me. I'm like, oh, okay. That struck me as similar to what I've heard some of my elder generation who went through the Depression, who don't trust banks and always kept cash on hand. An excellent example of how what you grew up with and what influenced your people influences your own behavior, to good or not. Right?
Yep, totally. And it also influences your perspective regarding what other people do or don't do.
Okay.
Right? Because you're looking at it through the lens of, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, maybe it doesn't make any sense to you.
Right. Because so it's easy to kind of go, why would somebody keep that much cash around? Why would somebody hold that much money? Like, what's wrong with you? Why would you do that? As opposed to if you understood the historical precedent that leads to that behavior.
Right.
Oh, wow. I never thought about that. Yeah. Which is you have to keep your money or you're not safe. If you don't have plenty of cash, you're not safe. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I just did an episode. Actually, by the time this episode airs, it will have been a while back, but I did just, as we're recording this, I just published an episode where I talked about your money story and how what you saw and observed as a kid around you about how people talked about money, experienced money, what the emotions were, that influences how we run our business today.
Oh my God. Yes. I can even tell you a story.
Tell me. Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me. So, got me all verklempt.
I'm telling you.
So, timeline. I started my business in 1995. And like I said, I started it initially to be an investment advisor. I was registered with the SEC, the whole thing. And I had my first speaking engagement in 96. It was for a national nonprofit. And that just, led to more speaking engagements. And then I had my first coaching client, I don't know, 2000, 2001, sometime thereafter. I'm sharing those dates because it's 2003. It's tax season. I am in my CPA's office and he says to me, when are you going to stop mortgaging your life? And I look at him like a deer in headlights. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What he was talking about was I was subsidizing my business, but not really realizing the extent to which I was subsidizing my business. So when I was at Bankers Trust in the private bank, I got paid every month the same amount, regardless of how the portfolio I was managing performed.
Yeah.
On my own, I got paid quarterly, a month after the quarter end. And I never knew how much I was going to get paid because it depended upon how the market was performing. And
Mm,
so whenever I didn't earn enough to take me through a quarter, I would tap into my savings. I might
hmm.
sell some investments to hold me over. And it got to the point where it's like he's shaking me, not literally, but shaking me to say, look, if you keep doing this, you're not going to have anything.
Wow.
So there's the slap in the face that's like, oh, okay, wake up call. But here's the thing. I started my business with my only debt being my student loan. But because I was financing my business, I went into credit card debt and I was doing all of the things that I was
Yeah.
told not to do, right? My
Yeah.
mother was a huge proponent of savings. And I've
Yeah.
shared this other places and I will probably
Yep.
continue to, right?
Yep.
When I was growing up, she had me save 50% anytime I got money, whether it was as a gift, whether it was from
Wow.
babysitting, after school work at the mall when I was a
But
teenager,
half of it away.
50% had
Half
to
of
go
it.
away, right? So saving was a huge thing for her.
Because that was
And
safe. That
that
was
was safe.
safe.
That was
Yes.
safe. That gave you
Hmm.
options.
Yes.
The
Yes.
other thing that gave you option was you don't carry consumer debt. And so
Yeah.
here I am, you know, it's with the intent to grow my business, but I'm doing it at the sacrifice of my financial future, which is why I am
Mm.
so adamant about entrepreneurs making business decisions that center the health of their personal finances, because I was doing all the things that I was told not to do. I was
Yeah.
depleting my savings, I was depleting my investments, and I was increasing my debt obligation, all
Yeah.
in the name of I got to save my business. And luckily, I ended up having to do the thing that I did not want to do. I asked my mother if I could borrow some money, and thankfully she said yes. So thankfully she had it. Thankfully she said
Because she
yes.
saves.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's not that I didn't, but when you're building a business, you're thinking, I got to put this money into my business. I got to
I
do
have
this. I got to
been
do
really
that.
bad guilty of that because I can justify any expense as a business expense. What the heck?
Mhm,
It's all business. And I have actually been working with my bookkeeper, who is so much more than a bookkeeper. She's like a spiritual advisor,
mhm,
um, around fixing the ratio of how
mhm.
much I keep versus how much I invest back into my business because I can justify anything. It's just
Yep.
for the business, right?
Yeah.
You can really get yourself into trouble that way. That is so
Exactly.
true. Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, thank God, 20 years post that, wake up moment, things are much
Yeah.
different. Um,
Mm.
but that speaks to how I got the messaging of saving and not carrying consumer debt. But when you were in the moment and you were
Yep.
trying, and you're like, oh, but at least I'm not going into debt buying designer shoes. I'm
Right.
going into debt because I'm trying to build my business.
What's wrong with that? Come on. I so relate to that, Jacquette. I so relate to that.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. But at the
It's
end
a
of the day,
problem.
you're in debt. It doesn't matter why.
So what did you do with all that? Like, so what your point is that your behavior, it didn't matter what you were taught, your behavior said something else, like in the moment.
Yeah, my
Right.
behavior and my rationalization, because
Yeah.
it's like, I can stand on a pedestal and be like, oh, well, I'm not buying X, Y, and Z, but it doesn't matter because the net result is the net result.
Yep.
Right. And
Yep.
so you got to take a step back and think about, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And then what do you need to do to course correct?
Mm-hmm. Boundaries. What was it you said? Attention, direction, and boundaries. Yeah.
Mhm.
So where did you go with it? Because this is a really great, because I don't know how much my audience is aware of this. And for those of you who have been in practice for a while, maybe you'll get this more than some. If you are new to business, or if you're not used to thinking about tax write-offs, which I think of all the time,
Mhm.
um, maybe this hasn't snuck up on you yet, but it is really easy to spend too much money, put too much money back into the business and not keep enough for yourself, and to watch the boundaries can get really messy there, or to do this sort of yo-yo flip-flop back and forth, right? Of moving personal money to business and back, etc. And I am not the poster child for how to do all this
Mhm.
stuff right. I get it right for a while and then I get myself in trouble and then I clean it back up and I fix it again. I learn a little bit
Mhm.
more, right? 3 steps forward, 2 steps back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how did you fix
Absolutely.
that? So what did you do? Because your business was whatever your business was. What did you do?
Yeah, and so, I had to swallow some humble pie, if you will, and I went and
Yeah.
got myself a little part-time job because I still had clients, I still traveled for speaking, but I needed something to just kind of level set and
Yeah.
give me the breathing room to catch my breath, to
Cash
think,
flow.
because you can't think clearly if you are stressed beyond measure. And
Yes.
so that part-time job helped
Mm.
me to create the space so that I could actually rejig my business model too, because it also was a reality of I wasn't charging enough for speaking. I wasn't
That's a
charging
shock.
enough. Yeah, exactly. I wasn't charging enough for coaching. Like
Yeah.
it just forced me in a in the end, in a good way,
Yep.
to make decisions that were better for the business and
Yeah.
ultimately better for me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even though, and it also highlighted that you can have, because again, remember from the very beginning, I had to have a separate identity because I'm registered with the SEC. So there's
Hmm.
no like any chance that my identity as Jacquette Timmons can be confused with my business. But just because you have separate accounts
Yep.
doesn't mean that you are always treating how
Yep.
you think about the money as separate. And so
Yeah.
it really helped me to get even better at that. And what also helped is eventually, and this took some time, it didn't happen immediately, but putting myself on payroll and,
Mm.
paying myself through, I use ADP, putting myself on payroll helped a lot too.
Like an actual payroll. You didn't just move money from your business account to your personal checking every
Right.
so often, which
And
is
then
what
I
yeah.
did that for
Huh.
many, many years. Let me just be really
Yeah.
clear. I did that for many years, but putting myself, setting up and getting an ADP account and setting myself up for payroll and,
Which is an
having,
expense. That's
right.
an expense,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Huh.
Yes, it is. But it certainly makes managing your business and personal taxes a heck of a lot easier.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. Did you do that? Like, do you have a team that you have to pay as well? Or did you do that just for yourself, for one person?
I have payroll just for me.
Wow. That's
Yeah, I do
impressive.
have one person, but she has a business, so she, her title
She's a
is VA, but
contractor.
she's much
Yep.
more than that.
Of
But she
course.
has a business, and so she invoices me, and
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
her. But she's not
But
a
you have,
contractor. But I
I
have
just, yeah,
one
but you
person
actually
on
pay.
payroll, mhm,
Okay. Which is you.
which is
Huh.
me.
And that forced you to get a little bit more serious about how you thought about this and that put bound. I would never have thought of that. That's new. That's a new concept for me to
Yeah,
even hear about. So interesting. Huh.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. What are some of the more common beliefs and behaviors that you see in your clients that stem from childhood education, family of origin training, our money stories that we all start off with? What are some of the blind spots that you see people having or more common mistakes that people are tripping over that is ultimately it comes back to what they learned as a kid? Like anything in particular jump out?
I
Any
think if
patterns, you know? Yeah.
I think if someone is first generation,
Mm,
whether it's first generation from an educational standpoint, first generation from a compensation standpoint, or perhaps both, what
okay.
can tend to happen is a sense of responsibility,
Yes.
financial responsibility to take care of family members.
Yeah.
And I have a soft spot. I'm like, you take care of your parents, no
Yeah.
doubt. For
Yeah.
me, that's
Yeah.
like
Yep.
that.
Yeah.
But some people are taking care of more than just their parents.
Yeah.
And so I think the blind spot is not being able to say no because
Mm.
there is an obligation that they feel needs to be met because they're the ones that made it.
The
So
first
that's
one to go to
one.
college, the first one to get a good job, the first one to run a successful business. Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Or even if they're not the first to go to college, because I wasn't the first in my family to go to college, but I was the first in my family to make the kind of money that I
Yeah.
made and make.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that. I think so I think that's connected to being not being able sometimes to say no
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
that seems selfish.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 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 Yep.
I
Yeah.
think the other and this I've seen more when working with athletes is conflating being rich with being wealthy.
Okay.
They're not one and the same.
Okay.
You can make $1 million, but if you're spending $950,000 of it,
Mm-hmm. You don't have any money.
you
Yeah.
don't have any money.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And I think the conversation is often rich and wealthy are perceived as one and the same. And for me, rich is really more about what is the income that you're earning.
Mm-hmm.
And wealth is both your income and what assets do you own. And in some instances, one would probably go a step further and say, are those assets producing any additional income for you beyond what you earn?
Mm-hmm.
So I think connected to, the sense of obligation, both you and other folks believe that being rich and wealthy are one and the same when they're not. And so
Yeah,
that stunts your ability to create wealth when you are really just a high earner. And I don't say just in a dismissive way,
of
but from a
course.
comparison standpoint.
Yeah. That makes me think about Mike McAllowitz and what he talks about in Profit First, which is how many CEOs are making really good money but have nothing to show for it. There's nothing left over. And I will say, like for a lot of the people that I talk to or my coaches, they make, they may make 60,000 a year or 80,000 a year. I've talked to people who've made 8 figures, but they are by far the outliers. Most
Mm-hmm.
people are in the, high 5 figures, and
Mm-hmm.
some move over into 6, maybe 250, something like that. But it's not common in my world that people have a lot. And when you are in private practice and you're running your own business, I find that people really struggle a lot, actually. No, for all kinds of reasons. Like they just struggle a lot. So that principle, no matter how many zeros you have or don't have, I think is common. Yeah. That you either spend too much of the money you've got, you put too much back in your business, you don't feel like you have a right to it, so you give it away.
Or you don't charge enough.
Or you don't charge enough. I was just going there. You beat me to it. I was going to say, and there's the income side of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
Because what
charge
right
enough.
do I have? What right do I
Oh
have to
my,
ask for more?
yeah. And that's one of the things that drives me crazy
Oh,
about
you and
some
me
of the
both.
conversation. I know, right? That's one of the things that drives me crazy around the conversation that some of the folks, I will not name them, but people will be able to figure who they are. There's some of the folks in the personal finance space that will say, don't buy that latte, or don't do
Yep.
this, or don't
Yeah.
do that, where they are focused exclusively on the spending side. And at some point, there's nothing left to cut. But where's the
Yes.
conversation around, well, what can you do to
To
bring
make
in
more.
more?
What did you say a while ago? You said own a business, invest in the stock market,
And
invest
own
in
income
income
producing
producing real estate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Exactly. What are you doing to earn more? And so I think another part of the conversation around, what do people do today that might be a reflection
Yeah.
of childhood
Yeah.
is, were you given the permission to dream about possibilities?
Oh, that's big. Oh, wow. Yeah. Were you even allowed to dream? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? Did your circumstances give you the space to dream and to think about what could be? Because I think that influences then how you approach that kind of stuff today.
I feel that one in my heart. I feel that one in my heart. I think that, and depending upon where you come from. So I've seen situations where people came from solidly like blue collar or even low income struggling backgrounds with family who said you can be anything you want to be,
Mhm.
and sent the next generation out into the world to do better. And I've also seen lots of examples where one generation is like, I don't have any, and who do you think you are to want anything more? And I'm from the South. This is funny. So one of the sort of mindset issues that I'm aware of that did not come from my parents at all, but somehow it's in the air that I breathe. I don't know, which is don't be above your raisins. Don't get above your raisins. And I said that to one of my first business partners one time who was from Nebraska. And she was like, don't get above what? Your raisins? What do raisins have to do with anything? I'm like, raisins? I'm like, raising, like how you were raised. She went,
Right.
oh. We had a home. It was really funny.
That is funny. That is funny.
but
That's
there
like a
is that.
bless your heart kind of saying.
Yeah, it totally is. It cracks me up because it's so common in my world. Like it's like there is that
Right,
belief. Like don't get about don't be
right,
thinking you're better than remember where you come from
right.
can be hold yourself back
Well, yeah,
or
yeah.
or the opposite. I mean, it can go either
Hmm.
way. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Were
Totally.
you allowed to dream? Yeah, that's worth sitting with. Y'all, those of you who are listening to this, I really, really encourage you to sit with that question in particular because I think that's a biggie. That brings up emotion for me.
Hmm.
And I was and have always been encouraged to dream.
Hmm.
I think why does that stir up so much in me? I think because okay, Jacquette, this is the first time this has happened on an interview. Lord, usually I make my guests cry, not the other way around. Which
Thank
I
you
was,
for sharing that.
yeah. Well, I think the reason that strikes me so much is because that's what I want for my people.
Right.
Right. That's what I want for my coaching clients. That's what I want for my listeners.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dream bigger.
Dream
Keep
bigger.
keep your head on, keep your feet in the ground, but
Yep.
dream bigger. Yeah,
Yeah.
golly, got me on that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
And
biggie.
and you, it sounds like you and I were fortunate in that we came from families that really encouraged that. And
100%.
so for those who didn't, or it, for any number of reasons, who
Yeah.
didn't, or, didn't get it to perhaps the full extent,
Yeah.
hopefully this conversation will be that inspiration to give you that permission to indeed
Yes.
dream and dream bigger.
Yeah. Give yourself permission. So that's really so lots of like these are really subtle things, y'all, that your growing up can teach can be influencing how you run your practice. Another big one I notice is how what you learned about people who have money and people who don't. So did you live in a family where people those how did people talk about folks with money? Did
Mhm.
they talk about them with respect or in a matter of fact way, or did they talk about them with judgment? Did your and when I say family, it can be your parents, it can be caregivers, like whatever, whoever the influential adults were
Mhm.
in your life. Did they point to people who had means as something you could aspire to, or did they say we're not like those people, and or even worse, those people are no good, or so I worked with a coach for a long time who would say the desire for wealth is a two-sided coin. We both want what other people have, and we resent them for having it at the same time. And how can you attract wealth into your life if you resent people who have it?
So can I share a story around that?
Yes, yes, please.
So there's an exercise that I have my coaching clients do, and I won't go through the whole exercise, but the whole point of it is to think about uh, the important relationships in your life
Yeah,
and how do those relationships energize you or not.
yeah,
And to look for the ways in which, if you were to, look at your business as a relationship, which relationship would it most reflect? If you were to
yeah,
think about, how you think of sales, which relationship would it most reflect? Your pricing, all of that. Well, one of my clients that I went through this exercise with realized that part of the reason why she was having some challenges in her business was because she grew up with the messaging of, you go to college and you go to the absolute best college. And so she went to Ivy undergrad and Ivy business school.
okay.
And afterwards, she, worked with all of the prestigious, consulting firms, joined a partnership, made partner, left and went out on her own, but couldn't figure out why on her own she was bumping up against resistance to her pricing when
Mm,
it was in many instances very similar to what she would quote when she was at the partnership.
yeah,
Dig a little deeper. And what we realized was that while her parents really encouraged education, the other message she got was, and don't be like those rich people.
yes,
And so
yeah,
now here she is with a business that's doing very, very, very well. And from a financial standpoint, she's like those rich people that her
yep,
parents said, don't be like, right?
yeah,
And the the benefit of that is she's able to help her family in a variety of ways that she wouldn't have been able to do. But when you have that silent messaging,
Yep.
of course, that is going to show up in how you think about pricing and how
Yep.
you go about the negotiating process,
Yes.
all of
You
that.
will self-sabotage
You
every
will,
time.
and you won't even realize it
Yeah.
unless there is someone that is going to help to point it out to you so that you
Yeah.
can acknowledge it and you don't have to, dislike your parents because of that messaging, but you can put in place some protective measures, some boundaries that allows you to say whatever it is you need to say
Yeah.
to yourself so that you don't sabotage your business and yourself and your ability to do what it is you want to do for your family.
As with so many things, this is tricky because so much of it is subtle or even unconscious.
Right.
Right. And it's hard to change something we don't even see.
Yep.
But allowing your, I think I'd be curious about what you would say about this. I'm thinking, so if you started off saying, where are you struggling? This is how you know if there's a problem. Are you struggling in some way, either financially or I would say emotionally? Maybe you're making
Mhm.
good money, but you don't feel good about it.
Mhm.
Maybe you're doing all the things, but the money's still not coming. What's that about?
Mhm.
It could be a marketing issue. It could be an
Mhm.
energy where you are blocking it in some way. I really think that's true.
Yes.
Where do I want to go with this? I want to encourage people to be brave enough to look at their situation and ask the right questions and have the courage to grow through examination of what their patterns are. And if there's a problem, there's a reason there's a problem. And if the same problem happens over and over and over again, there's a pattern. Where do people go? Where would you encourage people to go as they begin to sort through this? Like, okay, you got me. I'm convinced you're right. I really do need to figure this out. How do I figure this out?
Uh,
Besides hire you, which I also think we should put a plug in. We totally need to put a plug in for that. But
well, yes, of course, that
of
too.
course, 100%. But like even if you're just beginning to even think about this, like, oh, you mean it's not just what my Psych Today profile looks like? There's like more to it. Yeah. Where do you start?
Paying attention. And here's what I
Mm,
mean when I say paying attention. Before you even get to asking questions, just look at what's in front of you. Look at your data. Look at your banking statements. Look at your credit card statements. And you're not doing it with any sort of judgment attached to whether you should or should not have done something or whether a purchase was or was not the right thing to do. It is not about
right.
that at
Right.
all. It is about looking at the information over a bit of time so that you can identify patterns of behavior. And then from that, that can help you come up with, well, what are some of the questions that you need to ask? Because I think far too often we sometimes start with a question. And maybe what's a better thing to do is to start with just look and just observe and just see what jumps out at you as you're looking from month to month or quarter to quarter. Do that for a bit of time. And sometimes in speaking engagements, I will remind people, and this is going back some time, but I think it's still a very poignant story. I will remind people of how Target informed a father that his teenage daughter was pregnant. And how did they know that before he knew it?
Hmm.
Well, a card that was attached to that address was making purchases that made them say, oh, somebody's getting ready for a baby because of all the things that were being purchased on that card. And what it reminds us of is whether it's a big box store or a financial institution, they tend to know more about us and not only our behavior with money, but make some assumptions about our goals and what's happening in our lives based upon the data that they have collected based upon
Mm-hmm.
our transactions. And even if we're not data scientists, and even if we were, we don't know what algorithms they're utilizing to help them come to their conclusions. But we can still look at our statements and say, if I didn't think this was mine, or if I didn't know this statement was mine, what
Right.
assumptions would I make about what's
Ah.
going on in this
Ah.
business? What's going on with this person or with this family? Like
Hmm.
just going at it or approaching it through that lens of what are you telling me is
Yeah.
going to help you to then really formulate the really, really good questions to ask that will help you to move forward. It will help, let me rephrase that. It will help you to get clear about what your present is
Yeah.
really, as opposed to
Yeah.
what you think it is. But then it
Yeah.
will also help you to be present to what it is that you want and what are the next steps to do to close the gap.
Okay. Okay. So, like look at your spending history over a period of time and think of it as if it was somebody else's, if it wasn't yours,
Mhm.
what would it tell you about that person? That's
Mhm.
probably hard to do, but I can see how that would be a useful exercise.
And
Where,
remember
yeah,
that the numbers are telling you a story. Like you
yeah,
mentioned that at the beginning in terms of your
yeah,
money story. The
yeah,
numbers are telling you a story. So when people say, "Oh, I don't like numbers," start with reframing. What do you think those numbers are telling you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Why don't you like them? What do they say? Yeah. Why? What's that about?
Mhm. Mhm.
Huh.
And I think
Interesting.
the key is to get curious without judgment, right? It's
Hmm.
not about
Yeah.
judging yourself. It's not about blaming yourself. It's not
Yeah.
about making yourself feel bad. Like
That's the
that is not
story.
going to help.
That's the
Yeah,
story. That's the story you tell yourself about
right.
what the numbers mean. That's not the numbers. The
Exactly.
numbers are just
They're
that
just
they're just
there.
reflecting, right, right.
Hmm.
So be careful about the story you tell. So the
Right.
story can be, oh, that's interesting. I made those spending choices. Um, is there something I could do different, or do those spending choices make perfect sense?
Hmm.
And where do I want to go next with that?
Hmm.
All right, so that's a good place to start, and then let's close
And
that gap. Yeah,
and then I think what is required is to ask yourself, well, what behavior do I need to change? So that can be a little abstract. So I'll share a little bit of my own story.
yeah,
Q3 of 2023 was the absolute worst quarter I can remember having in a really, really, really long time. It
mm,
sucked.
mm,
But upon reflection, I had to think about, well, what new business development activities were you doing in
yep,
Q1 and Q2 so that what you were experiencing in Q3 would be a reality, right?
right,
So
right.
my reaction was, this sucks. And that's my reaction, and I'm entitled to it. But then when you take a step back and zoom out, I realize, oh, you kind of, slapped a little bit.
Yeah,
You were
yeah,
doing all these things, and those things are good, but they weren't the things that would, lead to business. And I've got a long lead time for a lot of
yep,
my work.
yep,
And so the next thing is to think about, well, what behaviors do you need to change? So as a
yeah.
result of that, awareness that I relearned, I am now very much more disciplined about my sales activities now than I was, Q1 and Q2 of 2023.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So that's what you do next. You look at, or you look for cues about behavioral changes to make, and you
Mm-hmm.
track you track the behavior change, not necessarily the result, because you can't always control the result, but you can
Yeah.
control your effort.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That goes back to being a cause again, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Which I'm a big fan of that idea. So I love this. So the point is like, first of all, figure out what the patterns are, identify where the problems might be or could be, and where
Mhm.
there's room that you might want to change those patterns in a way. And then zoom back out, watch the story. I really want to hammer that home. This is not about shame and guilt. This is not another weapon for you to beat yourself up with. You guys do that enough already. And I know it. Use it, go, okay, so what can I do about this? Is it a
Mhm.
marketing issue? Is it a planning issue? How often does anybody even know you exist? Are you putting yourself out there enough, et cetera, et cetera? And I want to go back. I guess we'll kind of come full circle. Whoops, I hit my thing. This is full circle back to 3 ways to make money. Own a business. Well, we got that part, but you said don't just lean on one thing. You also need something else. And this investing in the stock market and or owning income producing real estate. And I was just had a conversation with my mom recently. We are looking at investing in some Airbnb property, and she's a retired real estate broker. And I was telling her, everyone I know that has any significant wealth has rental properties of
Mhm.
some kind. or they buy and
Mhm,
sell property in
mhm,
some way.
mhm.
I am not good at that kind of, I've like, that's always been kind of fuzzy to me. I've not done that, but everybody I know that is, if any real comfort level, has something like that going on. So I guess if, let's say you're talking to a mid 40s massage therapist who has a small solo practice, is just beginning to realize she needs to raise her rates
Mhm.
and have better boundaries around how she gets paid. But she's up for the game. She's ready to grow her business. And let's say she's making 60K a year, but she wants to make 160K a year. Other than the things I can teach, put in packages, develop better payment systems, raise your prices, add to your value in other ways, diversify your offers. There's a lot of things I can teach. You do the rest of it. Like, what else? How would she even tiptoe into the stock market or real estate? Just baby steps if you've not done
So
that before.
the baby steps on the stock market would be very much so a non-sexy approach to it,
That's
right?
fine.
It would be just getting into an index fund, right?
Okay.
Or an ETF and an exchange traded fund, which is a form
Okay.
of a mutual fund. Or if you're, someone that is hell bent on doing individual stocks, look for stocks of the companies whose products and services you already use.
Okay.
So, there's no rationale to it, but I grew up with Tide. And so therefore I still use Tide today. I cannot tell
Gain.
you if another
I'm a
one is
gain girl.
better.
That's hilarious. Invest in
Still use
Tide.
it to a day. Exactly. So, that's made by Procter and Gamble. So if you realize you've got a lot of household products in your home that are made by Procter and Gamble, that might be a stock that you would want to purchase, because then that's a way of kind of recycling back to
Yeah.
yourself because you use it, you trust it, etc. So
Yeah.
that's one idea in terms of the stock market. Either do a straight ahead mutual fund, an index fund, an ETF, or the stocks of the companies that you automatically
Okay.
use because you trust them.
Yeah.
And you can kind of bypass like some deep research and all that kind of stuff. From the real estate part, I think what becomes really tricky is if you don't know a lot about real estate, what you
Mm-hmm.
may want to then explore is how can you partner with someone who does and who you trust, and you become the silent financial partner in a deal.
Okay.
And so, whatever amount is agreed to that you invest, that's what you invest. And that represents, your ownership in that rental property or that
Okay.
commercial property or that
Yeah.
Airbnb, which is, I guess, would be a commercial.
Yeah.
That would be one way to start. But you don't want to go. I think the thing is to just remember that you don't need to go from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
What you
Baby
first need to
steps.
do is go from 0 to 10.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
baby steps, small incremental steps. Don't put yourself in a situation where you are so extremely over your head and it becomes overwhelming. And then what ends up happening is that as soon as something goes wrong, you want to pull out.
Yep.
And that's probably the worst time to pull out, because what I can tell you is, from going back to where we started our conversation, the people who left their money in the market in 1987 and every crash that we've had since, whether it's been a big one or a small one, the
Yeah.
people who did not need their money because they didn't have a liquidity issue
Yep.
ended up making money, because in a weird way, when the market is low, that is when you buy.
Yeah. Right. Buy low, sell high. Yep. Yep.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. I like the idea. I had not heard that either about, that's a really helpful little tip, y'all, about, be a silent partner to someone who does understand real estate. So if somebody's going to buy a piece of property and maybe you contribute X
Mhm.
amount of dollars, I could see how that could work, even if it was just like 10,000 or
Yeah,
20,000 or whatever, but you put something into it and then you get some small amount back from that,
absolutely.
and then take that and turn around and do more with that. Yeah.
Yep.
So baby steps. Yeah.
Mhm,
That's really great.
mhm.
I know that those are huge topics. Like, we could do a year-long course on those things,
Right.
but I did want to just at least address something about the tangible side of that side as
Yeah.
well.
And I
Yeah.
just want to echo what you said in terms of, the work that you do with folks with regard to diversifying offers. I think
Yeah.
that is so incredibly important. And that's why I have, two main arms to my business, speaking and one-on-one coaching, because when the pandemic happened, speaking dried up until people got comfortable doing things virtually.
Yeah.
And, and last year, speaking is what contributed the most to my revenue. Who knows what this year will turn out to be, but it just allows you to have not only a foundation, but, to be fluid a little bit with which it doesn't really matter which one will contribute the most to the bottom line, but these are my goals, right?
Yes.
This is my minimum. This is my ideal. And this is my, oh, hell yeah, target. And it doesn't matter how I get there, but these are the ways that I want to get there.
That's true. There's
Right?
lots of ways to make money. Don't limit yourself.
Exactly.
There's lots of ways to make money. Yeah. And I think there's a dearth of creativity sometimes, especially if you are trained in a very specific service.
Right.
Like psychotherapy or people just like, well, I just see people. No, there's so many more things you could do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. This has been such a fun conversation. You are just a hoot. And,
thank you. You are an awesome host. So I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. You're funny, but you're also inspiring. And you also have this sort of grounded, practical sort of left brain piece of this that pops in that is refreshing to me, because that's not a strong suit in my world very much. And it's, I find comfort in that when people can come and speak to that. Even if it's a little, like, I don't even, like when I asked you to define what is a benefit plan, I'm like, I used to know that. What did that mean? Oh yeah. Define benefit plan. Like, I used to know what that meant.
Right. Yep.
Help.
Yep. No, totally get it.
Yeah. So how can people learn more about you? I know you've got a free giveaway on your website. Would you like to talk about that? Because it's kind of a cool tool,
well, it's
I think.
free right now. So it's about making some changes. It's free right now when we're having this conversation, and probably at some point in Q2, it will no longer be free. It will be available on the website, but it may not be free depending on when someone goes there. But it is the financial wheel framework. And what it is designed to do is to help people reflect on their relationship with themselves and with money, but then also use that reflection as a way to make some very targeted choices around managing their money so they can close the gap between where they are and where they want to be. So you can, go to the website, JacquetteTimmons.com, and either the free version will be there or the paid version will be there. I don't know. Depends on.
Go now, people.
Depends on when it comes out and how far into Q2 we are. But that's one way to stay in touch. And then I'm pretty active on both LinkedIn and Instagram.
Okay. LinkedIn is under your name, under Jacquette Timmons.
Yeah. Under Jacquette Timmons. Yeah.
Jacquette. There was a story behind your name. What was the story behind your name?
Oh, yeah. So I was born in the 60s, and back then you didn't know the sex of your child before birth. And my heritage is Jamaican American, but my mother is the American side, and she was very fluent in French. And so the plan was to name me Jacques Michael.
And here you are.
And here I am, Jacquette Michael.
Is it Jacquette Michael, not Jacquette Michelle? All right.
Well, if you say it the American way, it is Michelle, but if you say it the French way, it's Michael.
Michael, love it, and it's so pretty. Yeah. It's so pretty. Yeah. This has been so much fun. I hope it's got some wheels turning, and I kind of hope it makes people feel like, oh, I could do something about this. Like, I don't have to stay stuck here. I could dream more.
Too. I hope so too. And I also hope that, we had a lovely, broad ranging conversation, but bringing it back to successful, profitable, and not broke. I hope what people take from that is that when you feel those things, it makes you magnetic, right? In terms of the people that want to work with you. It provides you with the resilience, because no matter who we are, no matter how good we might be in business, we are all susceptible, is the word I'm trying to say, to the vicissitudes of business. And so, it gives you the resilience to be able to weather those ups and downs. And then I think at the end of the day, it also helps you to be bold, because you can't grow a business if you're not bold.
Yep. Amen. And entrepreneurs are some of the bravest people out there. Yeah. We trip over ourselves, but we are brave, or we would not, or we would be sensible and go get a job. Yeah,
Right.
not gonna do that. No. Yeah, what a hoot.
We would probably, depending upon where we are in our journey, we might make more money as an employee, but that comes at a cost. So we would rather pay a different kind of cost.
You got it. You got it. And I think be profitable. Like
Yeah,
make it work. Figure it out, y'all.
exactly. Figure
Yeah.
it out.
You
Yeah.
are allowed to make money. It's okay.
Yes. Yes.
You are allowed to have nice things.
And you are allowed to have nice things and to experience luxury, however you define
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to I'll show you this. I know I've got to quit. We've already run over too far, but a few weeks ago, I interviewed a woman who has an 8-figure business, and she is killing it in the mental health world and leaving a legacy behind that is so impressive and so beautiful and so powerful in so many ways. And after the interview, I asked her, I said, do you have a life? Because she's got so much happening. And she said, oh yeah, honey, don't you worry about that. Oh yeah. She said, tonight is Uno night because it's Thursday. That's what we do on Thursdays. And she was telling me that she only works like 9 months out of the year. She takes the last week of every month off. And she was looking at sometime in the next year or two, taking a year-long sabbatical to take her children on an extended travel around Asia. And she is this particular person. She was like making a magnificent contribution to the world. Like she is saving lives in big ways. And I just got
is this the episode that I heard, or this one hasn't gone live?
Another one, no, she hadn't gone live yet.
Okay. Got it. Oh my God. I can't wait to listen to that one then.
Let me think about my timing. It may have gone live. I get all my, like you said, the timing is funky because I get all mixed up about when I'm recording and when I'm, it's just those kinds of stories just like reinforce why this is so important. Live a good life.
So can I say one more thing before we go connected to that?
Yeah.
Whatever your revenue goals are, and I learned this from a coach that I've worked with and still do, instead of thinking of that target through a lens of 12 months, think of it through the lens of how can I make that number in 10 months?
Yes.
Because then it's embedded in that you're giving yourself some time off.
Yep. Perfect. Yep. 10 months. Yeah. Love it. There's a great takeaway for them. Thank you so much, Jacquette. This has been so much fun.
You, Wendy.
So much fun.
It has been a blast.
I so appreciate you. Guys, go look her up. Go download the financial wheel that she talked about before you have to pay for it, or actually just pay for it because you know what? It's worth it. So there you go. Yeah. And with that, I'm going to wrap this up and send you all on your way to go do your homework, journal about this, think about this, and learn from this so that you can do better. All right. We're all doing better. All right. Yes. Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful week. And I will see you next week right here on Ideal Practice. Bye now. Hey, y'all. If this program has become important to you, if Ideal Practice matters, it would mean so much to me if you'd be willing to take just a minute to do one or two of the following things. First of all, would you follow or subscribe to the show here at Ideal Practice? Following me helps you because you'll never miss an episode, but it helps me as well for all kinds of reasons. To do that, all you have to do is go to the show page for Ideal Practice on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. There, just click on the plus sign that you'll usually find in the top right-hand corner, or click on the word follow that you're going to find somewhere there on that page. Of all the things, this really is the most important thing you can do for the podcast itself. While you're there, it would be extra special if you would be willing to give me a 5-star rating, and even better than that, a review with your own words. Your words matter. And when you write what you feel, what you think, you uplift and encourage others. And I love that. If you want to go a step further than that, take your favorite episode or two, one of the ones that has meant a lot to you, and share it with a friend. Could you do one or two of those things for me? I promise I will love you forever. You guys matter to me, and I value your support more than I can possibly say. Thank you, sweet friend, for anything you can do to help me out and support the show. I'll see you again soon.